Hey guys, the upcoming video is going to be entirely about motorhome stuff again. So if that's not your cup of tea, we totally understand, and there's plenty more content coming very soon. If you do own one of these coaches though, stay tuned, as the upcoming video series will be quite important as we do a lot of maintenance to one of the systems that's on our motorhome. I also want to dedicate this video to another YouTube channel. That YouTube channel is called Camp Prevo. Yes, Prevo is in the bus. Him and his family purchased a 2000 model Prevo H345, and I am super jealous of your rig, sir. It is absolutely drop dead gorgeous. I have enjoyed talking with you back and forth in the comments, and you know how much I love those Prevos, and I dream of owning one someday. I also know that you and I both have a nemesis with our coaches. I know what yours is, you know what mine is, but we both have a passion for these older coaches to bring them back to their glory days. So we're going to get on with the video, but first I just wanted to give a big shout out to his YouTube channel, Camp Prevo. You should really check it out. I will put a link to it somewhere up here. Check it out. Their bus is absolutely gorgeous. So sir, this video series is entirely for you, as we both share a nemesis with our coaches. Hey guys, how's it going? As you have no doubt by now known, if you've watched any of our other motorhome videos, you know that the #1 nemesis on our motorhome has been the aqua-hot system. We have had the motorhome about 2 years now, and I have continuously worked on this thing, trying to make it work, or parts going out, or whatever. And it's a great system. And as you've no doubt heard, I absolutely love this thing when it works. The other 6 days out of the week, I would take a sledgehammer to it. Well, we had recently done a lot of electrical work on it, trying to make the heating element side work for the house current side, as well as some pump issues and stuff like that. And we got all that done, and in the process of making all those videos, excuse me, we got all those fixed and everything like that. We went on a trip, and the next thing you know, it's leaking coolant. I mean, it just a minutest slow drip, and it would only do it after it got completely hot, and you would let it sit there for a while. You'd go outside, and you notice there'd be a little stain on the ground, but you really couldn't see it drip at all. But since we've had the motorhome, we have always had to kind of top the coolant level off a little bit. And I'm talking about the coolant in the boiler side, okay? Not the freshwater side, obviously. And I never really could figure out what was going. I never saw anything that made me think anything otherwise. I just like, oh, okay, it's just normal consumption that these things are going to use a little bit. Well, sorry about the lawnmower in the background too. My daughter's mowing the yard. She's such a responsible child. I can't say enough about her. But in the process, again, moving along, our little tiny drip stain on the ground turned into a drip that you could notice. And that drip that you could notice soon turned into, we couldn't keep boiler fluid in it fast enough to even keep the thing working. And, well, again, my nemesis, the aqua-hot system. I really wasn't going to show the process of taking this thing out and troubleshooting it and repairing it, because I didn't think there'd be enough interest in it, really, to even go through the time of videoing it. But after I had mentioned it a couple of times, well, I've had a lot of interest in it, and people have asked me like, hey, we would love to see, you know, what it's taken you to try to get this thing apart. And when I say apart, I mean like apart. Like there's no case left on the aqua-hot, there's no parts inside of it. It is torn apart into as many pieces as you could get down to, so that we could get the boiler tank out of it. Our boiler tank is leaking. And so again here, a million thanks. This guy is phenomenal to deal with on the aqua-hots, John Carrillo. I sent a message to him, again through their contact page, and I was like, man, this thing has struck again, and you know how I feel about this thing and everything like that. Help. So I expected a message back or something like that. Well, the next thing you know, my phone is ringing, and it is Mr. Carrillo himself calling me because he's concerned. He's like, man, I mean, I can't believe you've had this much trouble with your system, and I know you bought parts from me, and I really appreciate that and everything like that, but I mean, let's figure out what's going on with this thing. So we started talking about it, and I was telling him the problem we were having. He goes, well, he goes, I mean, if you've isolated it down to every single fitting there is, then and no doubt it's probably the boiler tank. And we discussed several options of, sorry about the long term here, but I got to try to get you filled in on it. We discussed several options. Replacing the whole entire unit with a rebuilt unit, replacing it with a brand new unit, and
all of these things are crazy expensive, but there's a lot of systems that are involved in this thing, which is you know, justifiable in the cost side. But a rebuilt unit was about I'm not going to quote his exact prices here because, you know, I don't know, but about $7,000 for a rebuilt unit, and it was really upwards of a little over $9,000 for a brand spanking new unit. And so again, talking to Mr. Carrillo, I was like, well, I think, you know, I mean, I've replaced everything on this thing already. I hate to scrap all of that cost and absorb a rebuilt unit, you know. And he's like, well, okay, hold on here. I have another option for you. He says, since you've already done so much work to this thing, how about just doing a rebuilt tank? And I was like, okay, what all is involved in that? And he goes, well, we got several options. You can send it to me. I can do it all for you. Or, I mean, you've already shown, obviously, that you have a little bit of aptitude in doing these things. Tear it apart and replace it. And I was like, oh, well, okay. He goes, I can do you a rebuilt tank. You just take the thing apart, literally pull the tank out, strip all your stuff off of it, put it on the new tank, put the tank back in there. And I said, okay, well, what's involved in it? And he goes, a lot of rivets. And he's not joking. He walked me through this process literally step by step, told me exactly what I was going to be looking at, what I was going to be seeing, what I was going to be dealing with, how to do it, how to go about, you know, getting arrangements with him, like to ship the other tank back, if at all usable, getting the other tank sent to us. And I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And he goes, no. He goes, I believe in you and I know you can do this. And I said, okay. So I tore the thing apart. I got it out of the motorhome. I've got it tore apart into a bazillion pieces. I did not film any of that because I thought that there would be no interest in it. So this video is literally going to start up with the thing in a million pieces and what all it's going to take to get it back together with Mr. Carrillo's help, some more parts and everything like that. So I'm going to get the camera flipped around here and I'm going to show you where we're at now in the process. And I will try to explain everything that I did to take it apart to get down to where we're at. And like I said, when I told you it's in a million pieces, it's in a million pieces. This is where your tank would normally sit. This is not where it goes. This is just out here. This is where your tank would normally sit. This is the front wall. This would face out. This is what you would look at and see, okay? So when you look at your HydroHot system, this side right here, that's where all your mixer valve is, where all your hoses and everything come in. Because remember, we're looking at this backwards. And then on this side over here, this is where all your blower fuel pump assembly would sit. Your boiler tank stir pump sits on this back wall kind of right here. This is the air intake. This is where your exhaust pipe goes out of the burner. Our electrical box here for our house side current, it bolts on, or I'm sorry, it rivets on right there. We stripped everything off of it to replace everything, rivets and everything. These are your zone pumps, which these two outlets right here coincide with these two hoses right here. This is the top assembly, the top assembly right here. Here's your hour meter. Yes, your HydroHot does have an hour meter on it. Ours is a 2004 model, and our HydroHot has, well, it won't really focus on it. There we go, 406 hours on our HydroHot. These are your fuel line connections, your inlet, your fuel return. These are your check valves for your zones, like to heat your bays and your interior compartments and everything like that. This is where your boiler cap, your radiator cap, so to speak, would go in. These are where your hoses come out to go into the bays of the coach to heat it and everything like that. I'll show you all that in the bay actually. But like I said, when I told you it was tore apart in a million pieces, I am not joking. There is nothing left in it at all. We're going to be replacing quite a few things. Mr. Carrillo has already sent me, this is an insulation kit. Our insulation was absolutely trashed. from all the coolant leaking into it, and it's just absorbed it and it swelled up and fell apart. Also sent a new grommet. This is the grommet that goes on the top here for the cap. We have a new stir pump going in. We actually have 2 of these coming. Okay, one of these is used, like I say, it goes on the back side right here. One of these is used to stir the boiler tank fluid when you're heating it initially. It will turn this pump on when you first turn it on, and it will stir the fluid in there to help warm it faster, okay? And then this pump shuts off once it's warmed up and you don't use it again, okay? There's also a stir pump right here for our engine preheat system, which is this pump right here, okay? It just rivets onto the back wall right here, just like so. And this takes coolant from the engine and circulates it through a heat exchanger to warm the engine. Now, we live in Southeast Texas, so it's not that we really use this that often, but we did get up in Kentucky last winter, and it was about 9 degrees outside every day, and it sure was nice to have that engine warm when we cranked up to move. But this pump has actually failed. These are obsolete. You cannot get them anymore. So after talking with Mr. Carrillo, they offer a retrofit kit, and he's like, but it's crazy kind of doing it because it comes with three-quarter fittings on it, and this little curvy hose right here anyway, it's just a nightmare. So what he suggested to do was an additional stir pump. As you'll notice, it already has the smaller fittings in it that will fit our hoses, okay? So we're going to adapt this right into here, which this one actually sits just like this. So there's an outlet facing down, and then an outlet facing your burner. So we are literally going to take this and modify the bracket, and we are going to mount it in the same orientation. And we're going to use this for an engine stir pump. Now, the only difference between this pump and this pump is this one flows a little less fluid per minute. Not a big deal. It'll just take 5 or 10 minutes longer to achieve the same desired circulation rate. Who cares? But anyway, this was an easy option. He suggested to do this because it works. So we actually got 2 of these coming. We're going to go ahead and replace our boiler tank stir pump as well as the engine pump. We've got all the insulation pretty much scraped out of here. Like I say, it's just mangled insulation into it. Let me show you all the stuff that we had to pull off of the thing to get it. So here's a bunch of parts. This is the grommet that goes in the top where all your electrical cables and stuff go through right here. This is all your wiring harnesses that come out of the hydro-hot. I mean, it's a mess. So this is the ends right here, this end, and there's another one similar to it somewhere in this jungled mess. Anyway, these ends right here is what actually plugs onto your logic board here. And then, of course, it comes out and everything goes in there, and then all of these type of connectors right here, this is what goes to all your stir pumps and your blower assembly and all that stuff to operate it. So we've got all of that stuff torn off of it. Here is our blower. Get back in here to it. So we can drag it out here. This is our blower fuel pump assembly, and whoops, we're leaking a little bit of diesel out of it still. But if you remember just a while back, this is the whole thing that we rebuilt. We put all new nozzles on there and all new leads. We rebuilt the whole blower assembly, all new fuel pump, all new bearings in there. All of that was done, obviously, with the help of Mike Z Motorsports. Again, can't thank that guy enough. His video on how to do this led me to be encouraged that I could do it as well, and I did. And thank you, Mike, so much. Here's some more. These are all the hoses and stuff that came from your pumps. This is the relay board for your house side current to control your heating element. Your control module, obviously. Like I say, there is a ton of parts piled up in here. All the fittings have to come out for your hose connections. Somewhere along the way, they had done some crazy kooky PEX stuff. I don't know why this is getting trashed. We're not going to use this. Mr. Carrillo sent me a picture of how it's supposed to be plumbed correctly, and we are going to do away with that junk for sure. On the other side here, this is all your hoses. Move this stuff out of the way again. These are your two hoses that actually connect to the top of the Hydra-Hot, which is these fittings right here. Right, this is what I was saying. This is where it comes out of your zone pumps through your check valves. It connects to those two hoses and it goes out to your heat exchangers. Zone 1 being what heats our bays plus the front part of the motorhome, the driver's cockpit and all that stuff. Zone 2 goes to the back. There's a heat exchanger behind there's two heat exchangers actually back here behind our tanks. One for the freshwater tank, and then we also have a heated gray tank and a heated blackwater tank. That's zone 2. This is just your overflow bottle drain tube. These two lines right here that I've just got stuck to the floor, that's your return lines from your zone. So it goes out these two and gets returned to these. I've just got them stuck to the floor. They actually go back into the Hydra-Hot right here. And so that's what makes the loop for the coolant to heat your bays and everything like that. These two lines right here that I have pinched off, these are your engine preheat lines, and I did not want to drain the whole entire cooling system, so we just simply pinched them off for right now, and that'll be that. Remember I was talking about that retrofit, those pumps are obsolete, is because the fitting in the actual Hydra-Hot is 3/4 inch hose, but the pump itself is only 5/8. So you have to have all these crazy adapters to adapt them down. So that's why we're just going to use a standard stir pump for the boiler tank. Makes it so much easier. Let me get back in here. For the time being, this is our freshwater connection that comes into the Hydra-Hot. Cold water, it goes through the Hydra-Hot and it returns hot water. So since I didn't know if we were going to have this done in time for our next trip, up in here, see, we have our cold water line going to the Hydra-Hot, our hot water line coming back from the Hydra-Hot. So all I did was I just took the line and looped it and just connected them, basically jumped that one right back to this one. That way we can still have water circulating in the motorhome for the time being. Anyway, that's all your hose connections. Over here, same thing on the fuel side. I just pinched the supply line off. It doesn't leak out while you're just sitting here, but just making sure. So I pinched the supply, I pinched the return off just so we don't leak any diesel into the bay. And as you can see, it is a mess underneath it. So that's where the Hydra-Hot was sitting. It's leaked all kinds of coolant out and everything like that. It's not going to hurt the bay. There's no wood in here. This is all fiberglass, aluminum. Now the steel, it hasn't been leaking long enough really to hurt it, but there is some steel reinforcement that goes through here. It's fine. As you can see, it's made a mess out of our bay. So we're going to have to get all this cleaned up, obviously, before everything goes back into it. The actual tank itself. All right, so remember, the original problem with this was, this is your boiler tank. And I mean, I've got it stripped down to nothing. The only piece of housing that's left is just this end right here, which actually you would be looking at it like this. This is the bottom. This is the top. This right here, I would move it, but this thing is super heavy. This right here is where they had all that PEX mess. So the hot water comes out of the boiler tank and it goes back into here. This is a pressure relief valve. This is your mixer valve for your hot water. And so let me get down here. The way that thing works is, turn the camera here a little bit sideways so we can see. The way this thing works is, all right, your cold water comes in here, okay? This valve initially diverts all the cold water into the Hydra-Hot through the heat exchangers, okay? It then comes out of here and back into here, hot water, okay? And then it comes and it blends it and it goes back out to the motorhome. So what happens is, this thing is adjustable, all right? So it's going to let a certain amount of cold water just go through it in a loop, and it is going to blend the hot water coming back into it inside this valve. So we're blending cold water and hot water to achieve a desired temperature, and then it goes out to your faucets. Let's see what else. This is your engine preheat. I don't know what else to say about this really. So anyway, we had all that PEX mess. It's supposed to be done in braided stainless line. So we have the braided stainless line. There's a fitting that goes in here that adapts this and gets away from all that PEX crap. So moving back on. Okay, that's that system. This is our insulation, obviously. We're going to be replacing all of this stuff. Now let's get to the tank, which was our original problem. Once I got the thing all tore apart, the problem with it was right here. There was just the tiniest crack in the tank. And as it would heat up, it would expand. It would start letting fluid leak out. So I got it all tore apart. This is a raw tank. All I did was I took a cutting disc. I cut that crack out from basically where the crack ended. I went slightly past the crack, slightly past the crack. You always want to get past the crack. Too much crack. Anyways, I ground that down, welded it back up, smoothed the weld out, put a little paint on it. There it is. After we did all that, we literally plugged all of the fittings, installed a valve here. We put a new radiator cap on the top. These only take a 7-pound cap, I believe. So what we did was we went twice that. We went to a 15-pound cap. We filled this thing up with water and we hydro tested it. At work, one of the things that we deal with at work is a lot of hydro testing. Anyway, we set this tank up to 14 pounds and it sat there all day, pressured up at 14 psi. Did not leak a drop. This was the whole problem right here. And thank you, Mr. Carrillo, for so much help on trying to diagnose this thing and find the problem. I'm sorry I didn't end up buying a tank from you, but you have been a world of wealth, and I appreciate all your help. This is your house side current heating element right here. We have a new one of those. This is your AC voltage, AC current, whatever you want to call it, high limit switch. To turn this off once it gets hot. We have a new one of those. It's in a million pieces. We are not sparing anything. We're replacing everything. I'm done with working on this thing. And so let me show you some of the new parts we got. Obviously, the new stir pump, a whole new insulation kit. Mr. Carrillo made this for me. It has all the correct holes in it. This is the top one where your fill cap is. This is the side. This is where your, let me get this oriented right. This is your fitting coming out for your stir, for the stir pump, for the boiler tank. This is where your blower assembly goes in. Your heating element hoses, your drain valve, everything like that. These are the side pieces right here. We have a new top. This is where your radiator cap would be. And let's see what else we have. We also have the new high limit switch for the house side voltage side, AC side, for the electric heating element. We have the fitting here to get rid of all that PEX stuff, go to the stainless. The electrical connectors for it. Also, the bottom underneath right here where the aqua-hot sits down into the compartment, there is some rubber pads that go underneath there. We have all of that stuff right here. Now let's talk about getting this thing apart, what it took to actually get it apart. And again, I'm sorry for the length of the video, but there's just a lot of explaining to do to catch up. This whole unit is just riveted together. There is a ton of pop rivets in here. All right, all through here. Your wall goes down through here. It's pop riveted down there. It's pop riveted all along the bottom here, all across the back. Like I say, your electrical boxes are riveted on. Your pumps are riveted on. Your top. The top plate will come like this and then down. That's what this piece is right here. It's riveted across the top. It comes down and then it rivets across the bottom here. So it's just held together with a bunch of pop rivets. And so your insulation goes all around your tank. There's some sealing tape that goes around all the seams to seam seal all that stuff to get that thing insulated super well. You want it to hold that heat so that your burner doesn't have to run all the time. This is the exhaust pipe. Obviously it faces down when it's in the motorhome. It goes out that hole right there. That was a dude. That was a dude to get that off. Here is what's left of our exhaust pipe. As you can see, it is all rotted out as well. There are holes in it everywhere. It literally just broke off while I was trying to even get the thing out. What I had to do to get that out was I literally had to cut the pipe nipple off. There was no unscrewing that dude. It's literally welded itself in there. Once I got the pipe nipple cut off and I got the tank sitting up here on the back of the truck where I could work on it, I just went to the inside of the pipe nipple, inside of it, and I split it open, and then I just took a small chisel and I closed that pipe nipple up and I was able to get it out. That really wasn't a big deal. That's it in a nutshell to where we are at right now. So we are going to now start the video of reassembling it, and I'll talk more about all that stuff as we go. Again, I'm sorry I did not film taking all this apart. I really thought there would not be an interest in it, honestly, to tell you the truth. But after having done this, I will tell you again, it is a job and a half. That dude is heavy, and trying to wrestle that thing out of there, which fortunately for us, our Hydro-Hot is right here. I feel bad for you guys. Mike, where y'all's Hydro-Hot is buried inside there. I mean, I can only imagine trying to get one of those out. So at least ours was right here. I could just drag it out onto I made some blocking and I just drug it out onto it. But with the exhaust pipe, I couldn't get it out. So I had this much. I had to try to raise that dude up in there to get it up. Anyway, it was a job. And so that's where we're at. I will start video in the process of putting it back together and getting all the fittings changed. We got the electrical elements we got to change. We got to get the stainless braided hooked up correctly. We'll start getting our insulation package put back on there. We'll get that tank mounted back in here, and we'll start getting this dude riveted back together. And that's where we're at for right now.
Stay tuned, guys, and thanks for watching. Part 2, where we begin reassembly of the Hydro-Hot, coming next Thursday, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. See you guys there.